What's good, everybody? It's your favorite Wetzel Pretzels employee here, back at it again to drop part 3 for What If Deku and Bakugo Fused. The last part was pretty hype, if I do say so myself. I had my boy Golden hop on the feature, and me and Golden actually, I feel like we made a pretty good duo, so if you guys think so too, then definitely go show him some love for that part. That being said, the previous last parts haven't really gotten the crazy views that most of my usual videos get, but this series, man, this series is so fire. I love it. Like, it's so fun to make and record that I swear, guys, this video, can I talk? This series will 100% be having a conclusion. So just please make sure to go down below and smash the total like button of 8 likes. As soon as we smash that like button, I promise, guys, I'm gonna be giving you guys a full trip to come over and visit me. No scam. This is not satire at all. Trust me. Clearly not lying. Trust me. Yeah. But with that being said, though, guys, I hope you guys do go on to enjoy the video. And with that said, let's go ahead and get into the intro. So hit it.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Okay, so we pick up our story right where we had left off. At this point, Deku had literally just finished bodying Todoroki, and he essentially made it back to the room where Momo stands. Momo would look at Deku's direction saying, "You got him?" as Deku would smile saying that he sure did, saying that now he just needs to do one more thing. At this point, Invisible Girl would have basically been inside the room, and Deku would be right next to the bomb, literally like just a couple of feet away from it. As Deku is just laughing with Momo, at this point, Invisible Girl would think that she won. She's stepping super quietly, making sure that her breathing is really low, and Momo literally had zero idea that anybody was in the room with him currently. But Deku, yeah, you were not gonna fool him. Deku would proceed to essentially hear a couple of footsteps as he would smile, and at this point Katsuya would proceed to literally extend his hand out as he would grab Invisible Girl by the neck, and he would quite literally throw her away as she's literally falling, and she fell right on her butt. At this point, she would pretty much be standing there as Deku would say, you know, if it wasn't me, you probably would have won. But quick thing, there's thermal sensors in this room, as he would point to a direction and there would be like a little camera there, and Deku would say, and little thing, I can also hear your breathing. She would say, but I was breathing so, as Deku would say, yeah, not quite enough. At this point, Deku would grab capture tape and begin to wrap it around her, as he would say, all right, so is that a win for us or what, All Might? Sorry guys. At this point, All Might would proceed to be like, well, that's a win for the villain side. That's a wrap, guys. Everybody get your hero suits and all this stuff, put it back where it goes, and we basically done with the day. At this point, Deku would proceed to look at Momo and say that that thermal device definitely helped, as he would look at her and say that if it wasn't for that, he probably wouldn't have been able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out where she was. Lying a little bit, but you know, he got to make his teammates feel a little useful at least, seeing as she didn't really do anything. At this point, Momo would kind of chuckle a little bit, look down at the ground shyly as she begins to twirl with her hair. And you know that motion when girls start twirling their hair, you know, they're looking down, they're looking all shy and stuff. At this point, Deku would look at her as he smiles and begins to walk off. But Momo would actually ask Deku a question as they're walking down from the building. She would say, "What are you doing later?" Deku would look at her direction saying, "Nothing much. I was actually just gonna go home to Inko's house, to my mom Inko's." As she would say, "Your mom Inko's? Do you have like a stepmom or something like that?" And Deku would say, "I guess you could say that." As at this point she'd say, "Oh, well, that's great. Well, why don't me and you hang out after school?" Katsuya would look at her. She's like, "Sure. I mean, I have nothing to do." As she would look at Deku, or Katsuya, sorry. I'm gonna be switching between Deku, Katsuya, Bakugo, them, they. Just know I'm talking about Katsuya. So at this point, Katsuya would look at her as he would say, I mean, I'm down. And at this point, he would walk into the room where everybody was watching everything, as everyone's just like, dude, that was awesome. they'd be like, the way you grabbed Hagakure, what's her name, Invisible Girl, the way you grabbed the Invisible Girl, that was so manly, obviously coming from Kirishima. And the rest of the students would basically just be hyping Deku up this entire time. Deku at this point would smile as he thinks that coming to UA was the best choice he's ever made. And Mina would actually walk over towards Deku's direction as she's like, what you doing after school, Katsuya? As he would say, oh, I'm gonna go to the mall with Momo. Immediately, a couple of the girls would say, oh, can we come? As at this point, Momo would look at them with that stare of like, y'all know what you're doing. And they would look at her back like, you're not getting any points with Katsuya. Like, that's my man, you know what I mean? So Momo would give them the weird stares, and Deku would kind of just see everything and be like, I mean, I don't see why not. Immediately, a bunch of the guys like Kirishima and Kaminari would say, where are you guys going? As Katsuya is just like, the mall, you know, we're just gonna go chill. And they're like, can we tag along? I actually gotta go buy myself a shirt and some jeans. As Katsuya is just like, I mean, sure, let's make it a group thing. As he would begin to look at the rest of the classroom being like, any of you guys want to tag along? And a bunch of the people who are more like on the quiet side would be like, nah, I'm good, man. But more of the like extroverted people, like outgoing ones in class 1A are all the people who end up going. Uraraka included, by the way. At this point, everybody would get all their money and stuff like that, and what ends up happening is Deku would go home as he would end up going to Mama Enko's crib, and she would feed this man a whole feast. At this point, Deku would devour it, and he would pretty much say thank you, as she would give Katsuya a huge hug and say, no, thank you, Izuku. She would proceed to say, so what do you got planned today? As Katsuya would be like, well, I was gonna go train with All Might, but I guess now I'm gonna go hang out with my classmates. Seeing as we've barely known each other for about 3 days, I think it's about time that I got to know them a little better. Inka would look at Katsuya as she's just like, well, that's a great idea, honey. She's putting the dishes, you know, in the dishwasher, and she would say, I hope you have fun. Immediately, Katsuya would go over towards his room as he would begin to get changed, and he would proceed to, let's see, what outfit would go good with him? Oh, one thing that I've never I'm gonna cut that out. One thing that I've never mentioned is the fact that Deku or Katsuya, what he looks like. Now, in case some of you guys are wondering what Katsuya looks like, he essentially has mostly Bakugo's features in the face, and when it comes to the hair, he has like black hair because he ended up dyeing it, because after the transformation happened, didn't quite really like his hair. It was blonde with green and it just looked strange. So he ended up dyeing his hair, and what ends up happening is now Katsuya has this like black hair. So he looks like a perfect mixture of Deku and Bakugo in the face. Black hair, pretty toned body, and he's actually on the more of the taller side. So at this point, he's a good solid 5'9", let's say 5'9", 5'10", 5'10" with shoes, 5'9" normally. And so, you know, he's a pretty decent height. So at this point, Katsuya would proceed to just look through his closet as he sees this like beige bomber. He would grab that, a white shirt, black jeans, and some white sneakers that he had. As he would throw that on, put on some blue de Chanel, and then proceed to throw on a chain, a watch, and dip out the room. At this point, he would go outside as Momo's actually outside with a limo, and Katsuya's just like, a limo? And she's like, yeah, get in. Immediately, everybody would be in the car and they're having a blast. It's more like a party limo, I guess you could say, as all of them are just having a great time, and Momo is really close to Deku. At this point, Mina would actually see this and start getting a little closer than, you know, Momo would like. And Momo seeing this is just like, oh, nah, now you got me messed up. But at this point, more and more people would begin to get closer to Deku, and Momo would actually end up on the outskirts of everything, not even being as close as she would have liked to being to Deku. So what ends up happening is they end up finally arriving to the mall, and once they get there, everybody wants to split up. Uraraka is actually looking at her pockets thinking, oh, I don't really have too much spending money. So they would immediately arrive to a Retzel's Pretzels as they're all just thinking about what they're going to get, and Uraraka would say, oh, no, she's good, as Deku walks over towards her direction saying, come on, I got you. Uraraka would be like, no, don't worry, I don't want any. And Katsuya would look at her just being like, you sure? Immediately, like, her face would turn a little red, indicating, yeah, she wants some, but she's just not gonna get any. So Katsuya looking at her would just be like, come on, let's go get you something. And Uraraka would smile, thinking that was such a kind gesture. At this point, he would buy her whatever what she wanted, and everybody would have a grand old time, just going shopping, bonding as a classroom, and getting to know each other individually from like more of a better like person to person basis. So what ends up happening after this is this whole group thing turns out to be a pretty fun experience for everybody. As soon as Momo got over the fact that she was just trying to be with Deku, she actually ended up having a lot of fun with some of her classmates, not necessarily a lot of the girls, because most of them were actually trying to get at Katsuya, and she didn't like that. So what ends up actually happening is that the class would actually have a little bit of a bond after this event, and about 1 week would pass where most of the people in class 1A are having a pretty chill bond with each other. You know what I mean? Momo is the one who's especially on Izuku's breadstick, if you get what I'm putting down. She's the one that really wants to, you know, devour this man. So she's kind of a little bit of a yandere, I'm not gonna lie. In this version, I may have tweaked her character to be a little bit more on the obsessive side. So yeah, that's what ends up happening, and she's a little jealous of a couple of girls, mainly Mina and Uraraka, because if you guys do remember, Uraraka did end up being saved by Deku, so her and Izuku or Katsuya are on pretty good terms with each other. And what ends up happening is that, you know, they all end up hanging out together as much as they frequently can. And all of this happening until Aizawa would finally say on one particular day, everybody get these papers signed, we're gonna go to the USJ tomorrow, just get the paper signed, meet me at school tomorrow, and we're gonna be gone all day. So they would all go home with these papers in hand, and Deku, or Katsuya, sorry, would bring the papers towards Mitsuki, as he would say, can you sign this? We're gonna go on the USJ. She would immediately say Universal Japan Studios, and Deku would say, no, it's actually something from UA. She would say, oh, sure, as she would sign the papers and say, you better become a hero soon, because I need that house that you promised. As Katsuya would be like, yeah, mom, don't worry about it. He would proceed to go out, and at this point, he would look at the paper, as on the bottom, he would see a pretty strange note. But at this point, he would kind of disregard that, as he would walk towards his closet and be like, what do I wear tomorrow? He would see this one hoodie. Now, this hoodie would be from a particular brand. This brand actually being Fandom. And in case you guys don't know who Fandom is, it's a sponsor of today's video. But Zether, I don't know what Fandom is. Well, let me explain. For those of you who are brand new to the channel, Fandom is an anime merch company, which you guys can get to by going down below to the description and clicking on one of those links that says my sponsor. When you click on that link, it will take you guys to a website which has a plethora of amazing anime merch, which you guys can go to and buy yourselves, your friends, your family, whatever you guys want. There is so many options to choose from, and up on screen, there should be a video playing just to show a couple of the options that they have. They have quite literally every shonen anime that you guys can think of, and I promise you, if you go on their website, you will 100% find at least one design that you guys will absolutely love. Now, when you guys do check out Fandom, please make sure to use code ZETHER at checkout to get an extra 10% off. And if you guys do end up getting something, please let me know down below in the comments so I can shout you guys out in my next video. With that being said, let's get back into the what if. Okay. With the sponsor out of the way, we can finally get back into the story. Izuku, or Katsuya, sorry, would look into his closet as he would see this hoodie and the tag just says Fandom. He throws it on and it's a really nice looking Zoro hoodie. When Deku, or Katsuya, sorry, when Katsuya is wearing this, he would go outside, and at this point he would just proceed to chill for the rest of the day. Until finally, the next day would arrive, and they would all be on the bus, on the way to the USJ. Now, when they're all on the bus, they're all essentially discussing who the strongest in the classroom is. And a lot, and I mean a lot of people would actually be saying that the strongest would definitely have to be Katsuya. A couple others would say that it might be Todoroki, but they would say that that argument was already put to rest the second that Katsuya and Todoroki ended up fighting in the heroes versus villains. Todoroki, overhearing this, would kind of grudgingly just think that he made a fool out of him and that won't happen again. As Katsuya is just kind of smiling as he would look at the class and say, I mean, Todoroki's pretty powerful as well. I don't know if that battle would have gone the same way had it been in an open area. With Todoroki thinking that he's absolutely right, that battle wouldn't have gone the same way in an open field. Katsuya and everybody would finally end up arriving at the location of the USJ, and when they do, they would immediately be told by Ida to go outside in a formal line. Actually, no. they wouldn't be told by Ida. They would actually be told by Katsuya, because he's going to be the class rep. Katsuya would be like, hey everybody, let's just go outside and get into a formal line. Everybody would do so immediately, even faster than Ida could make them do so. And at this point, Katsuya would just be like chilling there, as he is just having a pretty good old time. Now, Katsuya would walk into the USJ, as immediately they're all greeted to the Pro Hero 13. 13 would begin to explain to everybody what the USJ is, the unforeseen simulation joint, and how they will all be training for learning how to, react to unforeseen events, such as catastrophes. And so all of them would begin to look around, as out of nowhere a purple mist would arrive and it would say, sorry to crash the party. Immediately, Kirishima would look at that direction, say, whoa, you guys didn't tell me you guys were going to be throwing villains in the mix. And immediately, Aizawa would react by saying, that's not a fake villain. He would jump towards Kurogiri, with Kirishima actually right next to him jumping at the villain, as they proceed to go through, and immediately Katsuya would realize what's going on with the situation. He would proceed to create a smoke screen, as he would blast up into the air, creating so much dust, and Kurogiri is blinded. He would teleport different directions, trying to see where everybody's at, but Katsuya would actually end up grabbing a good amount of people, two people in each hand. He would grab Uraraka, Momo, Tsuyu, and Mineta got expelled, and Koda, as he just grabs all four of them and essentially gets them away from that area. Immediately, he would throw a big explosion at the gate, the door that's pretty much keeping them there. And he would look at Ida's direction, saying, Ida, you gotta go get All Might now. Immediately, Ida is just like, why should I listen to you? But, that just kind of goes away a little bit, because he's a little salty that Katsuya ended up winning Clash Rep. But he would proceed to run as fast as he can, and Kurogiri would teleport everybody away as far as he could. Immediately, Kurogiri would look at Katsuya's direction and think that that kid's gonna be a problem. But Katsuya would remain there with all the four people that he saved, as he would blast off towards Aizawa's direction, and he would begin to cause mayhem for the villains. He would begin to destroy villains left and right, shooting explosions at them, taking out big swarms of them at a time. And by about 2 minutes in, all the villains that Aizawa had to fight against for a long time were actually cleared way faster than originally. So Aizawa is actually having a pretty good tag team match against all these villains, and Katsuya is just helping a whole ton when it comes to the USJ situation. At this point, Shigaraki would begin to scratch his neck, saying, it's not fair, it's not fair, he cheated, as he would begin to say, Kurogiri, bring out the Nomu. At this point, Katsuya would look as this gigantic black bird looking thing with a brain at the top of its head would step out, as it would roar to the heavens and begin to essentially rush straight at Katsuya's direction after Shigaraki said, kill the brats. Katsuya would actually literally get almost punched if it wasn't for his instantaneous reaction. He would just barely be able to dodge out of the way, as he would blast up into the air, but the Nomu would jump up right after him, as it would bring its hands up and go for a smash to try to just slam Katsuya, back into the ground. Katsuya's body would quite literally ricochet on the ground as he bounces back up from the force, coughing out like blood and spit at the same time, as Katsuya would just shoot an explosion to narrowly dodge, as the Nomu would have came down to try to crush him. At this point, Katsuya would think that this is not the time to be playing games, and he would immediately decide that he needs to push himself beyond what he usually can. At this point, Katsuya would activate 40% of One For All, as he would muster one of the biggest explosions that he possibly could. Katsuya would rush at the Nomu as he would say, Howitzer! Impact! He blitzing at the Nomu, he would shoot him with a very, very powerful Howitzer Impact. And what he actually ends up saying is not exactly just Howitzer Impact, but he would say 40% Howitzer Impact, just rushing at the Nomu's direction like a spiral, like a spiraling drill. And at this point, he would shoot the gigantic explosion that is like absolutely huge, which would cause a bunch of dirt to go up into the air. But the Nomu would quite literally have a bunch of its skin like torn, but it would still be standing there because of the shock absorption. At this point, Katsuya would be in absolute shock, and the Nomu would actually have Katsuya's hand literally gripped by its arm, which is blown into bits and pieces, and bones and like burnt skin is all that's remaining. The Nomu would then screech as slowly it would begin its regeneration process, and Katsuya would just be thrown aback by how much punishment this Nomu was able to receive without just completely falling and like just being done. Katsuya would try to get free, and it's at this point that he would say, "Let go!" At this point, some black tendrils would come out of his other hand as it would shoot towards the direction of the Nomu, and it would shoot the Nomu a great amount of distance away from Katsuya. At this point, Katsuya would have these tendrils go haywire as it would actually begin to go crazy, this being Black Whip. And Black Whip would begin to go haywire all over the place as Katsuya is struggling to control his quirk that he just recently got, and he is just not having a very fun time. The Nomu would be gripped by one of Black Whip's tendrils, and Katsuya would just barely be able to push it all back in. However, when he does so, the Nomu would be like literally flung right into Katsuya's direction as he would shoot an AP shot straight into the Nomu's stomach, as it would create a gigantic hole into the Nomu, but the Nomu would begin regenerating very, very quickly. At this point, Katsuya would proceed to just look at Shigaraki's direction as he's laughing, saying, "It doesn't matter what you do to the Nomu, it has regeneration, shock absorption. This thing was made to kill All Might." Now, as soon as Katsuya hears that, he thinks, "Oh, All Might?" As the Nomu would begin to unleash a bunch of punishment on Katsuya, and Katsuya would actually be shocked by just how much damage this Nomu was able to handle. These explosions are not normal Bakugo level explosions. They're literally Bakugo's explosions times 10 plus the amp of 40% one for all. You can imagine how powerful these explosions are. They're literally the sizes of one of, like, you know, Bakugo's big giant explosion that he did in the USJ. Multiply that by 20. That's how big these explosions are, but he's able to actually compact them. He's even able to create a nuclear explosion, which is something he never ever tries to use because the splash damage is just too insane. But Katsuya would begin to think that's the only way. He has to destroy every cell on this thing's body for it to finally give in and lose. And at this point, Katsuya would lunge into the air as he would quite literally like fly as high as he can, aim his hands upwards as he would begin to shoot down at the ground and say, "Nuclear! 1,000,000% explosion!" as he just comes down spiraling. And this explosion would be so massive. A white light would go through the entire USJ, and as this happens, All Might would be on his way to the USJ. At this point, Deku would have decimated, I mean obliterated, the Nomu, and what ended up happening next was Katsuya quite literally got folded. This man, like, not him, but the Nomu got folded like an omelet. It was dust. There was nothing left of the Nomu. And at this point, Katsuya would stand weakly as he looks at Shigaraki's direction, and Kurogiri would have actually been shielding Shigaraki away, because had that explosion had any splash damage effect on Shigaraki, he would have been destroyed along with him. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, that explosion was contained about as much as you can get, but the villains that were around, they had serious, severe 4th degree burns and were flung very, very far. So the villains, they're not in the best shapes of their lives. But Deku, or Katsuya, sorry, would look at Shigaraki's direction as he would shoot an explosion towards Shigaraki, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is where What If Deku and Bakugo fused Part 3 is going to be ending. If you guys enjoyed today's part, then please make sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you guys are obviously informed about Part 4 and when it's going to be dropping. Part 4, guys, is most likely going to be covering the rest of the USJ, the little 1 week off that they will have, and probably the entire UA Sports Festival arc. Also, guys, just a little bit of a sneak peek, there might even be a feature on them. Don't count on it though, but there just might be one. That being said though, guys, I do love each and every single one of you guys. It has been your boy Zether, and I am out. Peace.